is going on, guys? So today we are back with another deep dive, diving deeper into the Rainbow Cup, and holy cow, I did not even realize that it's actually almost time for the new cup announcement. We're less than a week away. According to what Dromps has said in the past, we should be getting this update 2 weeks before the first of the month, which by my clock should be on the 17th, which is what, this upcoming Tuesday? So, or is that a Monday? I think it's a Monday. It's this upcoming Monday. Yeah, because I'll actually have class that night. So hopefully it doesn't get announced while I'm at school, so that I can like immediately start working on content for that, because that's always like the most exciting part for me. So, winding down on the last few deep dives and versus videos that we're going to be doing for this month. I'm excited because I always get into like this weird mode at the end of the month where it's just, I'm kind of like, it's the same thing over and over. Like I feel like we've beat this cup to death and it's time to move on. But anyways, so we're back at it today with Victreebel, which is a grass and poison type Pokemon. By the way, I did try to beef up my lettering, my handwriting, so that it's not so tiny. It's just really hard because this board, this old board that I don't even use anymore, it had these little like grids on it. Yeah. Victreebel, of course, being a grass and poison type Pokemon, maxing out at level 40 with 15s across the board at 2431, which would be pretty freaking sweet for the Ultra League. Now, with a 1 on attack, 15 defense, and 15 stamina at level 23, you can hit a 1497, which is a-okay for the Great League. And according to my spreadsheets and all the numbers that I have ran, Victreebel is around 76th in bulk and 64th in stat product. Not the greatest, but we know that we can bring it back a little with our moves here. And of course, all of this comes from our base stats here with a 207 on attack, 135 defense, and 190 on the stamina. Not the greatest, but hey, we can work with that. Now, coming up to our moves here. So, Victreebel actually has quite the move pool here. He actually has 7 different moves that you can choose from, 2 fast moves and 5 charge moves here. So, I did exclude a few of these, and I'll kind of like give you the rundown on the reasons. So, Acid is a horrible move. I hate Acid. It's only 2.5 energy for only 3 damage with 3.6 after stab. It gains half an energy more than Razor Leaf, but at the cost of literally 3 full damage per turn after you factor in stab for both of those, which is mind-boggling. So, Acid, I'm not too much of a fan of. It's not... It helps a little. Like, it could be said that Acid would help in a more, like, anti-grass Victreebel. Like, if you want to resist that damage, plus deal super effective damage to the grass types, hey, that's great. But, other than that, Acid Spray doesn't have a whole lot going for it. Razor Leaf is definitely the more enticing move, which is the reason that it's up on the board. As far as our charge moves here, we do have Solar Beam and Leaf Tornado that are actually excluded from the board here. Solar Beam, great move, don't get me wrong, it's just that it's really slow. It's 80 energy to fire, which is going to take forever. That would actually take, what, 40 turns, which is 20 full seconds to get to Solar Beam off of Razor Leaf. Holy cow, that's insane. So I mean, Solar Beam is great for what it is, just unfortunately, it's just not really like too synergetic with our Razor Leaf. It's too high of an energy cost. While it does have a great payoff, it's just too high. Leaf Tornado is the other move, which compared to Leaf Blade, so if we actually take both of those moves and we like put them head to head, Leaf Blade costs 5 energy less, but it does 35 more damage. So Leaf Blade is just objectively better than Leaf Tornado in every way. Less energy, more damage, way more efficiency. So Leaf Tornado is just kind of being left off for now. So that does leave us with Razor Leaf here for 2 energy per turn, we do actually get this full 5.5 damage per turn, which after stab is a 6.6 damage per turn, which is huge. That's a huge amount of damage. It's insane how hard Razor Leaf actually hits. Even if it's resisted, it's still, like, it still can chuck away at that health bar. Now in terms of the charge moves here, we do have Leaf Blade. For 35 energy, we get 70 damage at a 2.0 damage per energy ratio. After stab, it does get bumped up to the 84 on the damage for a 2.4, which is amazing. That's just huge, man. That's crazy. Then we do have Sludge Bomb here. For 50 energy, we have 80 damage at a 1.6. Then after stab, it does get bumped up to the 96 for a 1.9, which is, again, very, very respectable. Acid Spray here, for 50 energy, we get 20 damage at a 0.4. I say it every time, I hate the numbers, but Acid Spray does make a lot of sense considering that it does set you up for the debuff. Now, the big deal between these moves, Leaf Blade is a given, for me at least. I definitely think that Leaf Blade is just absolutely going to be required here. It's amazing, it's super low energy, we actually can get to it reasonably fast, even with Razor Leaf's abysmal energy gain, and it does a great deal of damage for how much it costs. So then it just becomes, do we choose between Sludge Bomb or Acid Spray? Well, in true fashion, we're actually going to take a look at this little spreadsheet that I made. It has all of the top meta-relevant Pokemon listed on the left-hand side. We do have a battle rating for Acid Spray and a battle rating for Sludge Bomb. All of these were done in a 1 versus 1 shield scenario, and they're literally just going to be comparing Acid Spray and Sludge Bomb here. So if we take a look at each one of these Pokemon individually, you can see there's only 2 differences here. We actually have a difference on the Beedrill matchup and the Ivysaur matchup. Every single matchup stays exactly the same, and in terms of battle rating at least, for whether you're going to be using Sludge Bomb or Acid Spray. As you can see here, Acid Spray will actually help just a tiny bit more in the Beedrill matchup. We do go from a 240 with Sludge Bomb up to a 259 with Acid Spray, but we're still going to lose either way. So, on the flip side, if we look at Ivysaur here, we do have a better chance with Sludge Bomb. Whereas with Acid Spray, we have an even tie at 500. With Sludge Bomb, though, we actually end up winning that matchup at a 543. So, here's kind of my take on Acid Spray with Victreebel. If you're going to run Acid Spray, I definitely think that you're running it for, 1, the mind games with shield baiting, 2, the setup for the next matchup, no matter what it is. If you're in an unfavorable matchup, it's way better to just dump all those Acid Sprays before Victreebel dies, and then set up that next matchup to just be an easy win for your next Pokemon. Otherwise, if you're not going for those 2 scenarios, I definitely just think that Sludge Bomb is going to be better, considering that up against these top meta-relevant Pokemon, we're not actually going to do anything more with Acid Spray rather than just to have a tiny bit better of a matchup with Beedrill. But of course, as we know with simulations, PvPoke is kind of it's impossible for PvPoke to account for every real-life scenario where Acid Spray would actually be helpful. So take that for what you will. If you're into the Acid Spray mind games and stuff like that, fine. Run Acid Spray because it's just as good. But if you already have an Acid Spray on your team, that's fine. You probably don't need 2 of them. It probably would be better to go with Sludge Bomb in that scenario. Or if you are just more of a play it safe kind of guy, then Sludge Bomb definitely makes more sense here because you do get that 1 more matchup up against the Ivysaur. Although I guess if you already had Ivysaur covered in another matchup, then what would it really matter? Just play what you want to play and have fun with it. For the purposes of this video, to get a little bit more concrete simulations, we're actually going to stick with Sludge Bomb here. We're going to go with the Razor Leaf, Leaf Blade, and Sludge Bomb moveset just to kind of set us up for the simulations to be a little bit cleaner rather than trying to rely on some guessing and stuff like that with Acid Spray like we do kind of see in the other deep dives that include that move as well. So first thing here, we do have our shields, and our shielding situations are actually looking pretty decent. I was actually surprised that Victreebel had some really good numbers here. So in our first shield scenario, that 0 versus 0, we do have a 48.9%, which is a-okay. Almost a 50% means that even when we're just going to be closing in that 0 versus 0, we still have a 50-50 chance of still winning, which is great. In the 2 versus 0, we do actually bump up to a 79.3%, which is awesome, but we're actually not worried about that 79%. If I have complete shield advantage, I kind of want to know which Pokemon still end up beating me. And a couple of things that show up here are the fire types. Not all of the fire types, but most of them do show up here. A lot of the confusion users show up here, and even Scyther. Scyther, utilizing any kind of flying type moves, does give it a big boost here and actually does help it up against the Victreebel. Our next shield scenario is the 0 versus 2, which we actually end up winning 33.7% of those, which, holy cow. I don't think we've seen a number that high all month long for the Rainbow Cup, a 33.7. That's pretty freaking high. And to no one's surprise, if the opponent has complete shield advantage, we're actually going to try to figure out which Pokemon we still end up just beating here. And tons and tons of the water types show up here. So the 0 versus 2 is a really big showcase for how good your fast move is. And usually you just kind of win the matchups that your fast move is super effective against, which is very true in this case as well. But because Razor Leaf has such a dominance in the powerhouse of its damage, it's super, super good up against the water types. Even if they have both shields, they're not even going to be able to use them in a lot of those matchups because our Razor Leaf is just going to pound through them. Our last shield scenario here is the 2 versus 2, which is where I have both shields, my opponent has both shields, kind of like a opening type situation. We actually end with 55.4% of those. Again, very, very awesome. So what that actually ends up telling us, if we do have that 55.4 versus that 48.9, then it kind of tells me that Victreebel does have a better chance at opening rather than closing, because we will statistically win a few more matches as an opener. Kind of makes him favor that if you are going for it. Now moving on to some matches here. So we're going to put our Victreebel up against the top 24 meta-relevant Pokemon for the Rainbow Cup, and as you can see, we do have it already built here in PV Poke, Razor Leaf, Leaf Blade, Sludge Bomb, 1 shield for us. We do have our custom group with the Rainbow Cup meta with 1 shield as well. Once we hit battle here, 9 wins, 9 losses, and 3 draws. Now, so we've already talked a little bit about this when we compared Acid Spray. The only one, remember, that we do win against with Sludge Bomb that we wouldn't with Acid Spray is the Ivysaur. So keep that in mind. Everything else is almost the same except for Beedrill gets a little bit better with Acid Spray, but we still lose. So, first up on the dock is Quagsire, which, I mean, Quagsire being super duper weak to our grass type moves, it's going to really have a hard time coming over that Razor Leaf. I want to see how quickly it does die here. Holy cow, it dies after 6 Razor Leaves. Oh man, that's so disheartening. Then we do have Raichu, Blastoise, Lantern, Azumarill, Lapras, Magcargo, Ivysaur here like we talked about, Kingdra, and then Mantine is our first tie. So we do have 3 ties here, Mantine, Slowbro, and Victreebel. So Mantine here is going to be able to pump out a lot of super effective damage with that Wing Attack and Aerial Ace. Plus, with it packing Ice Beam, it's also going to have a pretty good chance up against the grass type there. So we are going to have a little bit of problem with it. Slowbro is actually going to be a confusion user, which does make a lot of sense there. And then we tie up against ourselves, which is expected. Then when we get into our losses, we do have Fortress, Meganium, Ninetales, Executor, Execute, Charizard, Beedrill, Venusaur, and Venomoth. A lot of those are pretty self-explanatory. Venusaur's the weird one for me. Like, I guess I get it. It's basically because it can just completely spam as much as it wants to with that Vine Whip, and then it's able to just throw out Frenzy Plants like crazy. And then once it can, it turns around and it throws out a poison move. Okay. Like, I kind of get that. I wish that Ivysaur was a little bit better in that regard. I wish Ivysaur, which, I don't know why, but they do have Ivysaur with Razor Leaf. Let's actually see with Vine Whip here. Okay, PV Poke, okay. So I, personally, would definitely run Vine Whip on my Ivysaur. Because, I mean, why not? Because Power Whip is so close to being Frenzy Plant anyways. You might as well just like go for the Vine Whip. It seems a lot safer. Razor Leaf is way more of a let's use this move and like don't worry about shields. Let's just kill them without even trying to give them a shield. As you can see with Vine Whip, Ivysaur brought it back. I'm proud of my boy Ivysaur. So depending on which moveset you run into, you can actually beat the Ivysaur or you're going to lose to it. Just kind of depends on the moveset people run. For me personally, I would be running Vine Whip. That's just me though. So that is actually the meta Pokemon, which are okay. I understand a lot of those. Those aren't too like out of the ordinary there. Now let's actually get into some typings here. Let's actually look at the countering section. Now in the countering section, we're actually going to take a look at each individual typing that is available in the cup, and we're just going to kind of see how we do up against those typings. If we're in the green here, then that means that we can use our Victreebel to target those specific Pokemon, whereas if we're in the red, we kind of want to stay away from those, and even if we're worried about the Victreebel, we could definitely just try to bring some of these Pokemon that we'll talk about. Our first typing that we're going to actually talk about is the electric typing, which, as you can see, what I have written down is all. Hopefully you can read that. So we actually have a win up against every single electric typing here. Magneton is our hardest matchup. Magnemite not falling far behind that. Zapdos, probably not going to see too many of those. And then Electrode is our third hardest, I guess you could say. So the Lantern here, as you can see, is running Water Gun. I am curious if it's running Charge Beam though. Yeah, it doesn't get any better than that. So the Lantern is no problem. Most of the electrics aren't going to be a problem at all. Next we have our water typings, which as you can see I do have 3 ties written down. So let's actually just run to the bottom here. Mantine, Slowbro, and Slowking. So Mantine and Slowbro we've already talked about. So Slowking is the other one that we would tie against. But after that, it's pretty easy sailing for the water types, which is no surprise. I mean, with Razor Leaf as our fast move, we should be able to tear through most of these water types pretty easily. It's just that those bottom 3 can give us a little bit of trouble. Next, moving into the bug typing, we have 2 wins here. Only 2 wins. So Heracross and Pineco. My boy Heracross, man, why you gotta do that? So we do actually have those 2 wins, but after that it's pretty much a loss to every other bug type, which isn't too surprising considering that we do carry a weakness to the bug. But after that, I mean, it's pretty bad. So Scyther, Butterfree, and Venomoth being our 3 worst matchups there. Scyther utilizing the Flying type moves. Butterfree and Venomoth are of course the confusion users from the bug typing, so okay, makes sense. Next in the fire types, this one of course is no surprise. We do have 1 tie, which is up against the Magby, and then after that it's pretty bad. So let's actually take a look at this Magcargo here, and as you can see with Ember it does become a loss, whereas if it's utilizing Rock Throw we should be pretty good, but just kind of depends on which moveset you end up running into for Magcargo. And as you can see, all of the fire types are pretty hard to beat here. Moltres, Charizard, and Ho-Oh, Asterisk, it's not probably going to be seen, and then Charmeleon do round out the bottom 3 there. Probably not even Moltres. So I would say Charizard, Charmeleon, and Ninetales are probably the 3 hardest counters out of the fire types for us. So definitely stay clear of the fire types there. Next into our grass typings, we do actually have 4 wins here, which are Sunflora, Bayleaf, Oddish, and Jumpluff. But after that, it's pretty bad. So Tangela, Blossom, let's just jump to the bottom here. Ivysaur and Venusaur are pretty big deals for us. As you can see with Vine Whip on the Ivysaur, it does jump down in this list, whereas for some reason it chooses Razor Leaf there. I don't know if that's just the consensus that everybody has, but I just disagree with that. I still think that Ivysaur should be played just like Venusaur, even if it doesn't have Frenzy Plant. It's just my opinion, Then we do have the Celebi and Execute there pulling out some more losses for us, as pretty bad losses to say the least. So grass typing is still not great, but I mean we do actually have electric and water pretty much sealed away with our Victreebel here, which I definitely think that Victreebel could work if he's put into a team that kind of fits around him. I definitely like the idea of having Victreebel, especially having at least a Razor Leafer, just because it does put up some impressive numbers, like especially when it's like down on shields. Even though it has complete shield disadvantage, still doing a huge number on the water types is a big deal. I mean, I like the idea of running Victreebel, but that's just up to me. I don't know what you guys think. Let me know what you guys think about Victreebel down in the comments below. And always remember that if you do have a deep dive that you're looking forward to, we are coming up here on the end. I will show you what we do have coming up next here. If you have any ideas for deep dives, make sure you comment them down below. Also, if you have any ideas for the versus videos, please let me know. What I'm thinking at the moment is that we'll probably do a video on the poison types in general. Maybe look at like some subtypes, like the poison. So I did get a little bit of reception off of the Quagsire video that I talked about. Possibly doing like a deep dive on all 3 movesets and comparing those and seeing how they do. So we do a deep dive on Earthquake, Sludge Bomb, and Acid Spray, just to kind of see how each one of those movesets like work and which Pokemon they do better up against. So we may just take a look at the poison typings, just kind of figure out like out of all the poisons, which ones are best. We could do that. We could do a video on Razor Leaf to figure out like all the Razor Leafers, how good are they. And then we could probably do the Quagsire video. Out of those 3 options, or if you have another option, drop it down in the comments. We'll figure something out before the end of the week. So thank you guys so much for hanging out. Thanks so much for watching. Always remember that if you like to like videos, you could do that. But if you don't, you could be that guy. Otherwise, let me know what you have to say down in the comments below. And until our next video, I will catch you then.